Because there's a tendency for the mind to disengage and take flight when we're confronted with discomfort, this is why conscious breathing really helps. It helps to keep our attention engaged. There's a lot of stress and tension released in the yogic therapy. At the same time, there's a lot of resistance buried within us. Controlled breathing is the lubricant that allows the muscles to relax, making the experience smoother and much more comfortable. The power of attention is the spotlight that lights up anything outside of us or inside. However, most people are not trained to use their awareness this way. But when awareness is constantly looking outside into the world, eventually the ability to focus and self-reflect diminishes, thereby losing the ability to deep recharge yourself properly. Welcome to my fourth film on advanced yoga. See that ice cube there floating in the North Atlantic? That's just a tiny tip. That's all the world knows about yoga. I know, it's crazy. Such a valuable personal therapy, completely unnoticed. In my last film, Advanced Yoga IV, I shone the spotlight on the benefits of integrated yoga, where we are integrating dynamic physical therapy and the control of breath in the practice of yoga. This therapy supports all three axes of the spine and the core of the nervous system. I've had spinal damage about 30 years ago. Professional people said it was unrepairable. I beg to differ. Yeah, it's been a challenging experience, but I've learned so much along the way that it has to be shared. The technique basically transforms a single stretch exercise movement into a 3D physical therapy. This really improves the joint impairment and cranial sacral circulation, which is really rarely talked about. The deep recharging happens naturally when our attention is centered in the body. This deeper recharging happens naturally when our attention is centered and the body conditions are at peace. This happens more in childhood and less as we grow up older. And this recharging power is referred to as qi energy. Generating qi comes from our soul presence. As we grow up, soul presence, our awareness, simply gets washed to the background and unnoticed as the world around us consumes our attention. This natural state of awareness is quiet on the most part. Quietly watching, no thinking, no analyzing. It's like when we're watching a movie. Some people call it transcendental mind or transcending the mind. You know, modern life, as it is today, overstimulates the conscious mind. It creates an overactive mind that really dominates our awareness. It can get so imbalanced, it becomes our new identity. Unfortunately, it also cuts us off from the connecting to our own souls. Oh, here's a good example I'm trying to say. They say it's important to maintain the purity of manufacturing lithium batteries. Otherwise, they get really hot when you deep charge them. I say humans are built the same way. There's nothing wrong with the charger per se. It's the impurities that create the resistance. It enforces you to reduce the charging loads. This keeps us from getting overloaded. It's sort of like a self-protected fuse. Another big factor here is ego. A strong identification to mind can create a strong ego, pride, and standards. This also creates resistance to looking within your own mind. Generally speaking, ego in today's Western world is built on a lot of scars and bruises from a competitive upbringing, from growing up, which has aligned itself to an artificial way of life to some degree or another. This state of mind needs to always be reinforced to feel important. The need to be loved, and because it's really stands alone all by itself. It's not difficult to understand. However, when ego turns narcissistic, then it becomes locked in its own jail, isolated to itself, and usually makes any relationship quite challenging. These shades of narcissistic gray are unhealthy developments of ego, making it difficult to surrender control or will, and very challenging to trust faith, or take a leap of faith, as some people would call it. Surrendering from the ego's perspective is not weakness, but only perceived as weakness. Identification to ego is a false matrix because it continues to need reinforcement to stay alive. In other words, life driven by ego consumes energy, needs attention and reinforcement from others to stay important and well-liked. Spiritual sovereignty, on the other hand, needs nothing from the outside world. It's self-contained in love. The narcissistic characteristics of ego is simply the ego that has spent way too much time, in charge of its own ship. It's the man that has to be the captain, it's his way or get out of the way. Mystic schools of the old were all about preparing the physical and integrating more chi to the point where everything becomes light. However, the candidates would spend a lot of years preparatory work preparing the ego that could go along with the plan, to so say. There are techniques for helping to subdue the ego or preparing the ego, and that is like random acts of kindness without acceptance or acknowledgement, and offering your time and services and support to others anonymously. As far as energy in the body, it's pretty much like a bathtub that has two components, a fill valve and a drain. We have to learn how to manage these two components to have a full tub all the time. A full tub or a full battery is the same thing in this case. Transmuting the physical resistance in our bodies, our hearts, and our minds is therapy. And therapy is rarely pleasant. I was always a fast runner. I did well in track and soccer. I remember before all the seasons, the pain of getting back in shape, which was pretty much a constant throughout the whole season. The benefit was 1 mile turned into 10 miles at the end of the season. I felt good. I discovered pain is not always a bad thing. In fact, pain can be used as a means to achieve higher human potential. There is a point where pain will transmute to pure energy. These teachings were basically preserved in the monasteries that supported the white side of the martial arts. But however, over the centuries, it got corrupted into training black ninjas, which never questioned the motives of their clients. So they got to be a little more popular, and I believe it was the Chinese jades that were behind that sad story. They're the Chinese deep state enforcers. The story is similar to today and the super soldier programs and run by the deep state or military groups. These programs use pain to fractionate the personality so that the physical and the emotional pain can be isolated and not to interfere with the mission. Pretty much like the Jason Bourne films, if you watch those. To a soldier, I guess this would sound pretty good. But there is a price to pay, and it's a steep one. I'm no stranger to physical therapy myself. If you're If you can get to the point of surrendering the pain that accompanies the therapy, this is a great place to get to. This is where you make a lot of good progress. The first day of therapy, everyone says there's no way I can do this. Some people just drop out right away. Others find the strength to go forward. However, it just works out because you just take it one day at a time. And before you know it, you're well into the therapy and you're enjoying the benefits that you're getting from it. Suffering can take you to a better place, or not. It really boils down to your intentions. In a perfect world, suffering is a response to improve and not to suppress life. But it takes a strong mind to deal with fear and pain. You know, the very nature of relaxing implies a gentle surrendering. And this can be very hard for people that have not established deep roots, so to say. Being in control is the only security that they feel familiar with. However, the true reality is not. The point of view, this point of view, is important. When you really want to face the fear and the insecurities we all have inside of us that have been buried there, did you know that these impressions are actually genetically encoded after so many years? You know, with my practice of deep physical therapy and integrating yoga like I am showing you, we'll have moments where these forgotten feelings will resurface. It's possible to have no memories and still feel the emotions. This may sound pretty crazy, but it's true. I've witnessed this with many people. This is actually the best time to reconcile the full experience with the power of observation and acceptance. Let's face it, there has to be a time where you finally want to let it all go and move on. No matter if you remember it or you don't. Trauma is a package of intense emotions that you've declared to be certified overwhelming. These suppressed packages of tears only buys you time. However, it will not help you at all to getting to your destination. I'm talking about emotional therapy. Yes, it has a physical signature in the body, and when you start to dig around, you'll inevitably find it. These times will be difficult, not only for yourself, but for others in your life also. So have some patience.